Today I'm sharing the story of a young man suffering from very important dry eye disease, extreme light sensitivity and intense nerve pain. The deterioration of his health was sudden, leading to a complete inability to tolerate light or even something as simple as a gust of wind near his eyes. He consulted many highlight regarded specialists and underwent multiple targeted treatments. Yet, the improvements remains limited and temporary. Even the diagnosis itself remains uncertain. This type of situation highlights something very essential. The problem is not limited to the organ itself. What truly matters is understanding why that organ is producing these symptoms in the first place. In this video, you will see what changes when the work focuses on the system as a whole. This is Romain's story.
Hello, Romain. Hi, Maxime. Hi there. It is really good to see you on video today. I was wondering if you could maybe tell your whole story, perhaps a bit about how things were before, like how you lived with your illness every day, and then how you eventually found me, and exactly what we did together and the results.
Very well. So for me to set the scene and give a bit of context, I've always been quite a nervous person, often quite stressed. I didn't have any particular illness, just some annoying allergies that lingered a bit, coming in late spring and leaving in early summer, a kind of hay fever, but that's really about it. Otherwise, I seemingly had no problems. Everything was fine until the day everything wasn't fine anymore, actually. So I was away. I went to do a 6-month internship over in Canada, and I had a bit of trouble while I was there. Overnight, I felt like a small pebble had suddenly appeared behind my right eye, just coming out of nowhere. I'm absolutely certain it didn't come from the outside, so it really must have come from within. I don't really know how it happened, and I still don't know the reason even today. The start was in Canada. I returned to France after about 1 or 2 months with the onset of symptoms. I did what everyone does. I went to see the doctor. He didn't know. So he referred me to an ophthalmologist who gave me corticosteroids, an antibiotic solution, tears, a kind of eye disinfectant. I don't have the exact term, but basically against bacteria, and telling me there, basically we're doing a bit of carpet bombing. We'll see what happens. And then normally
it'll pass.
Exactly. In fact, concretely, and now I know it, he didn't know what I had, and he treated all the simplest solutions. Then he told me, I hope for your sake it passes, because if it doesn't, it's more serious. Then in that case, you're in trouble. And he really said it to me like that. So I was feeling a bit uneasy. I had corticosteroids, and that was great. So then corticosteroids, no more pain, nothing, not even in 30 minutes. In a few minutes, really all the symptoms disappeared. The eye became moist again. Everything was fine. The problem is that the corticosteroids lasted 2 weeks. The improvement lasted about a month. And after a month, it came back. It came back in a few days all at once. We have the cycle again, corticosteroids then with just artificial tears. And that's it. The change didn't even last a month. The actual improvement lasted just a week. I repeated the cycle another 2 or 3 times. I couldn't take it anymore. The eye was getting drier and drier. Other symptoms appeared, photosensitivity in particular, which is very debilitating. It's hard to explain that to people who don't have it. But you have to imagine actually that every light is like the sun, that it's unbearable, that it's intolerable. But when I say every light, it's every LED, every traffic light, every car headlight, every street lamp. It becomes blinding and you see nothing else. It's like a pounding funnel. It's quite terrible. So it lasted 4, 5, 6 months, and I was diagnosed with an allergy.
Okay.
The main issue I faced was that it was a grass pollen allergy, but I had symptoms throughout the year, even at times when there was no pollen in the air.
Yeah, exactly. There was no pathology.
That was my first allergy discovery. Then we found a second one, actually a mold, which could be present all year because it's in decaying vegetation outdoors. Actually, he was digging, and it was the third allergist who found it because the first 2 didn't find the mold. It was really a constant search process, and we were starting to understand the mechanism. Then I spent another 7 or 8 months on desensitization, which didn't do much. It helped a bit with the mold, but almost not at all. So I looked for other things. I had 2 or 3 leads like that. I had gemology. In the end, I didn't go. I had some thoughts. Anyway, there were quite a few things. And I ended up finding you. You showed me what you did, your way of looking at things. I was a bit scared at first because some things seemed quite radical and all. And thanks to you, since you'd already been through it, you really explained the theories and areas for improvement. What's fundamental is that you already had the program. You adapted it a bit based on what I could or couldn't do, but you already had all the keys, really.
And it all went very well, so we did that. So then we continued on. In fact, as the program went on, you started to feel more and more that it was getting better and better.
It improved significantly, especially regarding my symptoms. Now, I had already managed the pain before seeing you. I still had a bit of pain, but it was very mild, actually. I managed it with physical activity, especially weightlifting, more than anything else, which really helped. But the dryness and photosensitivity remained, and we reduced that to almost nothing. So in June, when I came to see you, I could still feel the air in my eyes. I had trouble withstanding the wind. I was very photosensitive. And now today, there's almost nothing left. And as I was saying earlier, now I can drive a bit at night over relatively short distances, but I can drive at night without sunglasses because I don't need to protect myself from the lights as much.
Yeah, that is exactly right, because you are currently still enrolled in the program. Well, Romain has not quite finished his program yet. I think we still have at least a month or two to do this gradually, especially because you decided to take it slower and do it over the long term, because you have your personal obligations as well, and so on. So I think we have another month or two short months to go. But in any case, you can clearly see that it's already changed your life.
Completely. It really has.
That is really quite cool. And what other things did I want to say? Do you have any additional thoughts you would like to share about that?
What is also truly great is seeing that you actually made it all the way through. When you think, I don't know if I didn't know if I was going to make it or not, but to tell myself that someone else made it, you know. So I'm not trying to fly without wings or to fly like a bird. If there are people who made it out, then there's a possibility of making it out. Now, we didn't have the same issues, but there's really a dose of hope. And that was just important too.
And we haven't talked about your professors, but you're supported by great professors who were able to clinically verify that your inflammation has significantly decreased in your eyes. What this means is that it is physiological and it is physical. We have the clinical proof to back this up, you know.
Clinically, it was indeed when we lifted the eyelids up a bit, and when we looked, it was completely bright red. There were many small blisters. It looked just like tapioca pearls, he said. It was very peculiar and strange. And now there is almost nothing left at all. And for me, physically too, I see again in an almost normal way, you know.
Well, cool. Well, look at that. I am absolutely delighted. And now we're going to say goodbye to every single one of you. I'm going to stop the video. We'll stay on together. We'll talk for 2 or 3 minutes. All right. Bye-bye.